Here's what's coming up on today's show.
Is something in my life going to change enough for me to do some action today to make sure that I've done a good job and not leave my spouse or leave myself in a position to where I don't have as much, in my example, for cash flow?
Welcome to the How Money Works podcast with Craig and Jennifer Moser of Maestro Wealth Advisors, serving you throughout the Triad of North Carolina for more than 30 years.
This week, guys, let's talk a little retirement planning myths. I want to make you guys Mythbusters this week here on the show. How you doing, Craig?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Like I said last week, every day's a better day, and I'm excited about it.
Nice. And Jennifer, how are you?
I'm doing great. I just came back from a conference. We talk about me being a certified exit planning advisor, and it's really dealing with the issues of business owners. I don't like to call it a CEPA. I like to call it a COPA, a certified optimizing planning advisor. And what does that mean? So most business owners, whether you're male or female, you don't like the idea of exiting or retiring from something.
Sure.
And the services that we do as a CEPA really are looking at optimizing your business day to day. So then when you're ready to call the shots to move to the next phase of life, your business is optimized. It's going to give you the best dollar. You're going to understand what the marketplace values. How do you transition that business and monetize that business so it can propel you to the next phase of life? So it's a CEPA, but I call it a COPA, Certified Optimizing Planning Advisor. and we're going to have more and more about that in the show. I think that, if you tune to the radio, you hear all about, retirement on the personal level. And that's true. Even if you're a business owner, you have to understand the personal level, but you have to understand not only your personal finances, but your business finances, and also what that personal aspect is. And it's really more the lifestyle. What is it going to be that you're going to get up and do and energize you after retirement? Because if you think about it, if you're a business owner, I'd say probably 110% of your time is focused on your business. You wake up thinking about it. During the day, you're thinking about it. When you go to sleep, you think about it. When your spouse is talking to you, you're probably thinking about it. I mean, we're business owners, right, Craig?
Right.
And we do that.
She'll walk in the shower. I'll be in the shower, and she'll go, "Hey, did you remember that?" And I'm like, "Jennifer, I'm in the shower.
Yeah,
Hold on a second."
Whip out that notepad. use that soap in the shower, and that paint. But so we're going to talk more about that, and we're going to try to incorporate more concepts for you as you're listening on our show and you are a business owner, or maybe you're married to a business owner. So when they retire from it, you will be retiring from it too.
Yeah, it's important.
So I think those are some value adds that I'm looking forward to be adding to the show.
Well, how many small business owners are out there too, right? There's a lot, right? So the majority of people
there are a lot.
Yeah, the majority of people in America are employed by a small business. So there you go. But for this week, we're going to do a little retirement planning myths. And then you can throw in some myths if you want from the business side. But I'll throw this first one out at you guys and let you see what you think. I think this one's hilarious. So the more a financial plan weighs, the more valuable it is. That's one of those myths that are out there. Like if it's War and Peace, it must be good.
You remember that software we used to use, and it would create, no kidding,
oh my gosh,
a 90-page, not plan, analysis.
And it looks so pretty.
It had some great graphs.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it didn't say anything. And I will also say to you, a plan is different than an analysis. I see a lot of software people will run it and say, oh, yeah, this looks like you got a probability of success with this. And it's like, okay, we need to look at the data there, but that's just running some scenarios. Have you had somebody actually write a plan for you? I bet the answer is no. You need this much in your cash reserve. We need to save this much. Here's how we're going to manage this particular account. Here's when we're going to turn Social Security on. How do we manage pensions? Do you have real estate? What's going to happen when you sell it? Do we do an exchange or are you going to pay the taxes? All of this is part of a plan. And that's just the start of it.
Yeah.
And it's ongoing because your life will change and you will say, hey, I changed something. And that's where a good, and I'm biased, CFP or a CEPA will come in and say, I have the time, training, and the experience to be able to talk to you about this.
Yeah,
and most
it's
advisors,
a COPA. I got to stop you. It's a COPA. She just said it. She just said
it's
it.
a COPA. But most advisors, like we were talking about analysis, that's more looking at the past, the historic. This is what you've got. This is what it may do in the future, but it doesn't really propel you to what should you be doing. How do you strategically use this in the future to create that lifestyle and make sure that you don't run out of money?
Yeah.
So that plan is imperative.
No, that's a great point.
And so I know at Maestro, we write a plan. So we actually put on paper, here's what we recommend. Maybe we might give you 2 paths for the investment side, but that's just part of the plan. I mean, there's a lot to go. Like we had somebody that came in, had a bunch of money, but had a boatload of debt. And they wanted to retire in about 8 years, had a big mortgage. And I'm like, are you going to carry this $2,200 a month thing into retirement? Oh, I said, do we need to add that into your income for the next, gosh, it was like 15 years or something, whatever it was, or do we build a plan to get that bad boy out of the way? And we went Dave Ramsey on him and did a debt snowball and showed them how we could pay it off, not using any more money than they were spending now. And we were able to accelerate it and get it done, but it took time to build that out.
And there was a quote that I read. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt. I hope I don't butcher this. Basically, it says, learn from other people's mistakes because you can't live long enough to make them yourself. Right? And
make all of them yourself.
So that's the reason why you work with a financial planner who's in the business, who's seen the mistakes of other people, bring that perspective to your situation to help you avoid those mistakes and actually handle those issues that you may not have thought. A lot of times, I mean, people that come to see us, they're either do-it-yourselfers, never have done it, or actually they came from another advisor, but not a planner, and it wasn't working out for them. So whatever that continuum you're in, there is a reason to come see us at Maestro. We can help you with those and hopefully avoid those mistakes.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about other retirement planning myths. It's not the size of the plan, it's the substance of the plan was the first one. What about my life is simple, so a will is all I need to have my affairs in order? Because when we say, do you have your estate plan? Yeah, I've got a will.
What does it say? That's the first thing I say is, what does it actually say? I don't remember. We wrote it, 20 years ago.
It's where my stuff goes. Yeah.
Yeah, when the kids were 3 and 5.
Yeah. And so the parents aren't even alive, but those are the custodians and all, you know what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, it's not true. Simple is great, but especially, when you look at, I have a focus for my income in the future. I have these sources of income that will come in. Social Security is usually the primary, but there might be pensions or real estate. We have the real estate, and it's like, okay, I have this much base income. How much more do I need to give you out of the pile of money that you've saved? And then what could happen? So simple really doesn't matter. Simple just makes it easier for the estate planning part that we do. The estate planning part would say, when I pass, actually when both of us pass, how does it get to my heirs? In our case, it's our 4 children, but how does it get to them? Well, my will's going to give it to them. Well, I'll give you my dad. My dad had a piece of property that we didn't know about up in Virginia. So we had everything just concrete laid out. And here's this one little outlier that keeps the estate open. We have to go and do probate in Virginia for a little dinky piece of property that's up there. And so it has held the estate up from moving along to the next step. So was it complex? No, but that one little thing made it difficult.
So we're talking about, all you need is a will, but that's not necessarily the case. In this particular case, and especially in North Carolina, if you have property in another state, you probably need to have that owned by a revocable trust versus outright by an individual or jointly. Part of this whole issue is you really don't want things going through the will and through probate. People say, I've got a will, but we're like, well, do each of your assets have a home? Are they designated where they're going to go when you pass?
Did you tell your money where to go?
Right. Yeah. And most people say, what do you mean? I said, well, do you have a payable on death? Do you have a transfer on death? Do you have beneficiaries? I think I've got beneficiaries on my IRA. Well, typically you will. When you open up an account, most custodians will have you put your beneficiaries, 100%, 50%, primary, contingent, whatever.
Right.
But what about that bank account? Joint or individual? What about that drip stock that you have with, CompuShare? What about your money market or savings account?
We just had somebody that came in and we're looking through, and I said, let's see the life insurance. And I look in there, and who's the beneficiary? Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody was
Right.
the beneficiary. Well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, won't it be my wife? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Not unless you've named it, which creates a whole lot of different issues on how to access that money quickly and what the tax
Yeah,
ramifications
Craig, you even
are.
talked about somebody who, like, even their cars, right? You don't even think about what happens with the car when somebody passes, whether it's paid for or not paid for.
Right. So it's very important. You really don't want things going through your will is your last resort. You want your dollars to be designated on the actual account, and we can help you with that if this is a new concept. You need a healthcare power of attorney. What happens if you can't make your medical decisions yourself? Who do you want to make those decisions for you? Have you appointed someone that can tell the doctors and the nurses and the hospitals what you do or don't want?
Real stories. A lady came in. She had been divorced. She walks in here. We're going through the will. 5-6 years ago, divorced. Guess who's the healthcare power of attorney? Ex-husband. Oh, that's going to go well. Oh, yeah, let's keep her alive.
Right. Especially if it was contentious, right?
Let's check that beneficiary on the life insurance first and see if she changed that or not. Oh, we'll take care of that for you.
And what about your financial affairs? You need a durable power of attorney. What does that mean? Well, it's going to be good whether you've lost your cookies or not. You've appointed someone to manage your financial
Lost
affairs.
your cookies.
Right. Well,
So what if just a couple cookies fell out of the jar?
Well, if you couldn't designate those cookies, buddy, you better have designated it.
Okay.
But so you've appointed someone to make those decisions, and even if you're an individual, I ask this of our clients: what happens if you can't tell me that you need money out of your IRA to pay this or your individual account? Who's going to do that?
It's
Exactly.
over. It's over if you're incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
If your financial advisor acting as a fiduciary or your attorney cannot be confident that you can make a sound financial decision, they are frozen.
Mhm. There are core documents you need from an estate planning perspective: will, healthcare power of attorney, durable power of attorney. You must have those in
Or
place.
the trustees for the trust.
And you may have a trust, whether it's testamentary or revocable, and that's why it's important to have a true estate planning attorney that you've contacted, not your real estate guy.
And we'll do the next one. Jennifer, you want to take it or you want me to take it?
I'll take it. The next myth we want to talk about is my spouse will be fine when I'm gone. They'll only need half as much income.
Maybe groceries, but that's about it.
Let me help you with this. Let me ask you a real question. Does Duke Energy care whether one or two people are in that home?
The thermostat might not move as much up and down and up and down.
How about the property and casualty insurance for your house?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. How about the property tax? Oh, there's only one in there, so we'll charge them half.
It'd be nice if they did, but
How
no.
about the lawnmower and mowing the lawn, or maybe repairing the car, or the gas that it takes? That's a myth. That is
Right.
totally a myth. Now, I'm going to say this. People do not judge me. This happened real time in front of me. I'm sitting in front of this couple. They were middle-aged, say 45. And, we got into this conversation and we were doing this plan. And I said, well, afterwards, I wanted to keep the income goal very similar. And he said, no, half. And I said, why? And he says, well, because you'll only need half, and if I die, well, she can just get back in the gym. And I'm looking at this couple going, oh, my God.
There's going to be some discussions afterwards.
That's right. I'm
Or
like,
maybe no discussion
may
afterwards.
I sit in the back of the seat of the car very quietly and listen to
Yeah,
this on the way
fly
home?
on the
Well, they
wall.
didn't become clients. And I was like, ooh, this was a bad one. But, you've got to think about the cost when somebody passes away. It'll be more like 80, 85%. There will be some
There's
reduction.
some adjustments.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
But
Health
then
insurance will be down some perhaps, but what can you do?
But other things might increase too. Let's say that you're at home and you're as a couple, and maybe one person wanted to travel, but the other didn't, and now that person is passed, and now you're by yourself. Now you can do those things that you weren't able to do before. So
But-
traveling might be more.
But cash flow is down because,
Yeah.
for sure one of those Social
Yep.
Security checks is gone. I know when my dad passed away, federal pensions, it was a reduction in the cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're asking the saved money to do a harder work for us. So you've got to look at all this, and we run these as a scenario. Somebody passes away. If you have a bunch of life insurance, we'll show that with and without. If you have a pension, depending on how that thing is set up, we'll take a look at it and say, all right, I've got this pension, it'll reduce by 45%. How does that impact the cash flow for the surviving spouse? And take a look at all of these things and say, is something in my life going to change enough for me to do some action today to make sure that I've done a good job and not leave my spouse or leave myself in a position to where I don't have as much, in my example, for cash flow.
And the extra whammy, I'm sorry, Jennifer, the extra whammy is the taxes too, right? You've been married filing jointly for 40 years and now...
You just took it out from under me.
Stop it, Mark.
Well, it's not Mother's Day weekend this weekend. I can do that. So
I tell you. So that's what I was going to get to, is not only the income, but where is that income coming from?
Yeah.
Is it a taxable income stream? Because people don't realize that you're going to hit a tax bracket sooner as an individual than you are as a couple. So let's say your income was $96,000 as a couple is 22%. Well, that $96,000 is now going to be 24% of tax rate. So you're going to hit that bracket sooner. And if all of your money, let's say both of you had qualified money, 401k rolled into the IRAs, and now it's all on one person, and they've got to take required minimum distributions, let's say, or they've got to take money for that heater, that new car, whatever, from qualified money. It's a taxable event. How is that going to impact them? Does that make them go into the next bracket for Medicare costs? A lot of things are tied to that. That's why it's really critical to start earlier rather than later, looking at where your silos of money are. How are they invested? Yes, you want to protect your taxes now, but in the long run, are you saving $1 now, but paying, 3 times as much when you're ready to take the money out and make it propel your lifestyle? Working with a financial planner earlier can help you diversify and make sure that you have those income streams to sustain you in life and not have adverse consequences.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about me stealing your thunder on that, Jennifer, it means I'm learning from you guys, right? So all this conversation means I'm picking up. So hopefully the listeners are picking up useful nuggets as well. And we're talking about retirement planning myths, 336-448-1086. We got just a few minutes left here on the show this week. So guys, we got one more. Craig, when I retire, I need to dramatically shift from stocks to bonds in my portfolio. We've heard this for 40 years now.
Yeah.
Is it a myth?
Yeah. Kinda.
Okay.
So depends on how much.
I think dramatically is the thing that's
dramatically different. Yeah. So what this is really saying is I need more income. And people are saying bonds are the only solution. I remember when I started back in the late 80s, it was basically 100 minus your age is how much bond allocation you should have. So if you're 20, it's 20% in bonds. If you're 60 in bonds. I don't know that is a universal truth. What you may take away from this idea, so I kind of like the idea, is how much do I have in cash flow? What is paying me? Because a lot of people use income. We use income annuities a lot. So I'll create a cash flow that might be $35,000, $40,000 a year. It's guaranteed for 2 lives from the insurance company. Even if the money runs out, the thing's still going to pay us. And I love that, because now you have your own personal pension that's added to your Social Security, maybe the money that's coming from your real estate, and then the money that you have in stocks can be invested for growth and the things that, the trips and the extras when it does well, because it will do well a lot of times, but not all of the time. So you have to think about, how do I really set this up for me particularly, rather than just here's a universal truth, you need more bonds. There's a lot more out there than just stocks and bonds, trust me.
Rules of thumb are very rarely the case. I mean, because they're so homogenized and
vanilla?
Manipulated, right? And vanilla, right? Every situation's different. I think a lot of times they think about this because they want to, quote unquote, de-risk your portfolio by going into bonds versus having the stock volatility.
And the cash flow that they generate from interest.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're in retirement, income is key, right? You wrote it early on in your career. You had you call it mailbox money.
Mailbox money.
Yeah,
that was like 10, 12 years ago.
Right. Yeah. People don't go to their mailboxes anymore. It's like it's more like bank money, EFT money coming in. I mean, so why have you worked so hard all your life to accumulate money? It is to propel a lifestyle that you want to sustain in retirement, that you don't outlive, and hopefully pass the difference on to your children and your loved ones. How do you do that effectively? Being in the industry, the people that are successful are those who have planned and been intentional, taking a Ramsey term, intentional about their planning and where they want those dollars to go.
Well done.
Yeah, another Ramseyism. Well done, well done. So it's really important for you to understand what is your money doing for you, and making sure that you have that, I guess, relationship with your advisor that you can talk to them. Let's say you've got a decision that you want to buy a car. Should I buy this? How should I finance it? I hope you pick up that phone and talk to your advisor and say, I want to do this. This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And you've got that dialogue and that relationship, because that's really important going forward. I want to sell this house and move to Florida. What can I do?
What's the worst one? I want to pay off my mortgage, so flush out money from my IRA. What do you think? Oh, my goodness.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Or, I've got an investment property that, maybe my spouse has passed or we can't go there. I want to sell it. Well, you need to talk to your advisor before you actually put it on the market and sell it, to understand the tax ramifications, bring in the CPA. How are you going to do this? How do you keep more of those dollars? All of this is propelling that lifestyle and that vision that you have in your life. And we at Maestro Wealth, we have 3 financial advisors that would love to sit down with you and make sure that vision becomes reality. And it all deals with the planning aspect of it before any solution or any discussion of this is what you should do is uttered from our mouth. We don't know the answer until we start talking to you and peeling that onion, as Craig likes to say.
Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you have any questions about what we've discussed, remember, you can get a complimentary financial review with the team at Maestro Wealth Advisors by calling 336-448-1086. Or go online to howmoneyworksradio.com for other great resources and ways to reach the team. You can also check the show notes of today's episode for our contact information as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app so you never miss an episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all the most popular apps. For Craig and Jennifer Moser, I'm Mark Killian. We'll talk to you next time on the How Money Works podcast.
Craig Moser is a financial advisor and certified financial planner. Securities offered through Avantax Investment Services, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Avantax Advisory Services. Insurance services offered through Avantax Affiliated Insurance Agency.